redeemed, purchased back. Sin had taken over. The wage of sin is death. That wage had to be paid. We can't pay it. Only the Son, full of grace and truth, who was the Word made flesh, could become what we read here, Yahshua. That as the Word made flesh, was the vehicle of sacrifice of Yahweh Elohim. It's another thing that we find in Et. Everybody see it? The vehicle of sacrifice. There's the Tav of Yahweh Elohim. Okay? So, it was through him that the covenant between Adam and Elohim would be restored as it was in Eden. There are a lot of people saying, oh, he restored the covenant that was at Sinai. So why would we want to restore the covenant at Sinai? That would bring us back under the Levitical law. We're not under the Levitical law. That's the curse of Torah that we're no longer under because he paid the price of sin. Okay? It was a relationship between Elohim and Adam that they had in the garden that would be restored. The very original relationship between us and humankind. And we can come to Elohim at any time through Yahshua. Everybody with me? Okay. All right. So it was through him that we would cease to be simply Adam and again become Ha-Adam. That we would no longer be separated from the Spirit of Yahweh Elohim, but once again we would be a vessel made to contain the Spirit. Everybody understand that part? That through Yahshua, through the deliverance, or through the redemption, the buying back, the deliverance from sin and death, and the restoration that comes from Yahweh, we would be restored from simply being Adam to having the Spirit of Yahweh Elohim again reside with us and in us as Ha-Adam. That once again we would become a vessel to hold the Spirit. Now if we keep this in mind, let's consider the last phrase of this verse that says, Vayite'a zetzev el libu. And it grieved him at his heart. That kind of shoots everything down that we've just talked about. It grieved him. How could it grieve him to restore us? So let's take a little bit of a deeper work. Vayite'a zetzev is an interesting word that comes from the root adzev, that means to grieve and to hurt and to be in pain. But what makes this word interesting is its origin. Its origin means to make, to fabricate, and to fashion. It has nothing to do with the definitions that were used in this verse. The original meaning of this means to make, to fabricate, to fashion. Which doesn't mean or doesn't have anything to do with causing pain or hurt. Okay? It's the first thing. The word el actually means in the direction of, instead of simply at. But it also means within and according to. So if we can consider that instead of grieved him at his heart, we find that he made, fabricated, or fashioned something within and according to his heart. Okay? He made, fabricated, or fashioned something within or according to his heart. The word libu comes from the root leb, that means heart. And in your Torahs, your Hebrew English Torahs here, you can go to the last word of the Torah in the word Yisrael, and you'll find that the last letter of Torah is the Lamed. The first letter of Torah in Bereshis is the Beit. When we put those together, they spell heart, lev. So if we consider this, that in the very center of Torah in Vayikra 11:42 is an enlarged vav in the middle of the word gahon that means stomach. It's a representation of humankind. We are at the very center of Elohim's heart. We are the very focus of those passions. So, keeping this in mind, in this we can understand that in the beginning was the Word, and that the Word became flesh or human in order to become the vehicle of sacrifice from Yahweh Elohim to restore the covenant between Elohim and humankind. So consider the words of Yochanan, the immerser, at John 1:29, that says, "And the next day John saw Yahshua coming unto him and said, Behold," pay attention, look clearly, "that the Lamb of Elohim which takes away the sins of the world." John recognized him as the Lamb of Elohim that takes away the sins of the world. Now this is an interesting thing. What sacrificial offering do we use the lamb for? We use it for Pesach to do what? To protect us from the destroyer, to keep us from being put to death. What is the animal or animals that are used for deliverance from sin? Goats and the bull. The goats and the bull. So why the Lamb of Elohim that takes away the sins of the world? Because through Yahshua, the curse of sin and death, the curse of death would be removed so that we could make teshuvah and come back to Elohim. That we would be able to restore our relationship with Elohim. We'll see more about this in a minute. But at Pesach, what did they do? We have this lovely door frame. What did they do? They put blood on the door frames and on the lintel so that it formed the letter Het. We'll talk about the letter Het in just a minute, a little bit more in detail. So in this we understand the phrase in Bereshit 1:1 that says, "Through the Aleph and the Tav, the heavens and the earth." And we read the whole thing that says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And we read it over and over and over. But we found out that it meant something a little bit more than simply that Elohim created space, time, and matter. And in this, when we look at it, Et chashamayim va'et haaretz, that in the word ve'et, just this word right here, in the word ve'et, we find that this word means and. It also means to attach or to reattach. So what we find here is that through the Aleph and the Tav, and the Aleph and the Tav becoming flesh, that Hashamayim, the realm of Elohim, could be reattached to Haaretz, which is the realm of humankind. In other words, he could restore the covenant that was lost between Elohim and humankind. Everybody with me? Now we get to go back to the ark and talk about this. So in the next verses of the story of Noah, we read that Elohim is going to destroy all life from the face of the earth. We also read that in this verse, we find Bereshit 6:8 that says, "But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh." Okay, wow. So he happened to look down and he found this guy named Noah, and this guy was, we read on later on down the road, that he was the most righteous in his generation, which that's a study for a different time. He said, "I'm going to pick this guy because he's all that in a bag of potato chips." What does this verse mean? But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. Noah means rest. So we could rest, we could read that rest found favor in Yahweh's eyes. It was here that Noah was commanded to build an ark so that those who would believe and receive could enter in. Those willing to yoke themselves to the word, those wanting to find the rest of Yahweh Elohim. Remember these ideas of yoking to the word. We're going to look at it again right now in Matthew 11, 28, 29. That says, Yahshua is talking. It says, "Come to me, all of you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." This is from the Aramaic, so it's going to be different than your King Jimmy. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek, and in my heart you will find rest for your souls." We said that the last letter, the first letter of Torah, spell heart. And at the very center of Torah, Vayikra 11:42, and the word for gachon, something that creeps on its belly, is found humankind. That at the very center of Torah, not only are we the thing that he's most interested in, but at the very center of Torah, we find that ultimately our decision in Torah is to make this decision whether to bow, there's the vav, the bowing to Elohim through the word, or not. To simply succumb to the serpent and say, "You're right," and live our lives out eating the dust of the ground. So we go on, now that we've talked about yoking ourselves to Elohim. 8 people went into the ark. 8 is the numerical value of het. Now, the ancient Proto-Hebrew of het is this. That means wall. Het is also the Hebrew word for sin. Now, this letter, like all the other things found in Torah, offers us a choice because it is composed of the vav yoked to the zayin. We say that all letters are composed of other letters. Het is the 8th letter of the Aleph Beit. See, the vav represents humankind yoking itself to the word. We yoke ourselves to the protection, the nourishment, and the rest that comes from Yahweh Elohim through Yahshua. Like I said, "Come to me, all of you who labor and heavy laden. I will give you rest. I will protect you. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. I will feed you, for I am meek, and in my heart you will find rest." So 8 people went into the ark, the het. This is the choice that we have in humankind. Because the choice is to remain outside this wall of sin, or again, to yoke ourselves to Elohim through his word. Now, why does he keep bringing up these extra canonical books? The book of Yashar again. The book of Yashar, it's mentioned in Joshua. It's mentioned in Samuel. It's a very old book. Why was it not canonized? Because human beings decided what was canonized and what was not canonized. We have a lot of things to learn from these extra canonical books. But in the book of Yashar, we're told that it took Noah 120 years to complete the ark. 120 represents the lifespan of humankind. In Bereshit 6:3 it says, "And Yahweh said, my spirit shall not always abide with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years." So in this too, we see that entering into and being surrounded by Elohim. Right? We enter in and we're surrounded by Elohim. What do I mean by that? The 15th letter of the Aleph Beit is Samek. Its gematria That is, if we take Samek and spell out each individual letter, gives us a numerical equivalent of 120. Okay? Now, we say that 8 people were surrounded, Samek, by the ark and found 120 life. They were surrounded by the heart of Yahweh Elohim. We say that the ark of Noah is a representation of the heart of Elohim. We see the math there. 8 times 15 is 120. The word for ark is tebah, and according to Rashi, he said it also represents the word of Yahweh Elohim. The Torah is the heart of Yahweh Elohim. Everybody with me so far? 8 people went into the heart. What does this mean? That if we decide to enter into the ark, we yoke ourselves to the Word and come into the presence of Elohim through His Word. Why was this put on the door? It was a symbol of, I am yoked to Yahweh Elohim through the blood of the Lamb, so that the destroyer will pass over me. Okay? So, the 8 went into the ark and took care of what was clean and unclean. They brought animals in. They brought clean animals in. They brought unclean animals in. They had to take care of them both. They had to feed them both. We go into the Torah to learn to distinguish between good and evil, between what is right and what is wrong. We read in this Parshah the components of this ark that was built. We found that it was constructed of a lower level, a second level, and an upper level. And at the upper level, you could look up and see the light shining in through this little bitty window. So we say that in this Parshah, we learn that the ark, we just said that, had a lower level, second level, and upper level. We began at the lower level, which is knowledge. We then gain wisdom at the second level until we reach the upper level where we have understanding. We get these ideas from a book called the Sefer Yetzirah that is attributed to having been written by Abraham, but it's an extra-canonical book. It wasn't brought into the canon for some reason. Okay? But in this book, he talks about the tree of life, and at the top of the tree of life, before the light, which is called the keturah, the crown, are 3 levels. That one is called, one is called Chokhmah for wisdom. The other one is Bina for understanding. But we start at Da'at, that means knowledge. That there are 3 levels. We go to Da'at, the lower level of the ark, we learn. We become wise, we gain wisdom. And then, with knowledge and wisdom, we have understanding. Then we can move into the presence of the light and have a relationship with Elohim. Okay? Now, we take a look at this from this point of view. There were 120 people in the upper room when the Ruach descended on them. We received knowledge and wisdom from the Word. But we gain understanding. Our eyes are open, our ears are open, and we hear with our heart. We gain understanding by and through the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahweh Elohim. This is when our heart goes from simply being a box of shittim wood, raw emotion, to being overlaid with the splendor of Elohim. This is the spirit of Mashiach that overlays us, that allows us to hear Yahweh Elohim by and through His Ruach, that allows us to have that relationship with Him. It is in this way that the master potter is able to take the broken pieces and the marred clay and make a new vessel.